Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ting ting a tingling too. I'm on this lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you.
What's going on, everyone? We're back with the weekly update video. We're gonna have a little bit of a shorter video today, just mainly due to the holidays. Hope everybody's had a good Christmas, and so we're just gonna kind of talk a little bit about what kind of happened last week with the core PCE data and everything coming out, and then what we're looking for as coming into this last week of the year, going into Q1. So let's go ahead and break down into it, okay? So economic outlook for this week, this is all the data that we have. Not too much data really coming out this next week that's really gonna really affect the market in general. We saw with the core PCE data this past week that inflation's still in that back kind of rear view mirror, as you will, and we're really watching on that recession, especially as we come into the end of this year into Q1. We're getting closer and closer to Q4 earnings. That's going to be possibly starting in a little bit later January. So I do think if we do get a little bit of a Santa rally here, I do think it will be a little bit short-lived, just mainly due with the fact that the supply chain and the having a fire and everything, we saw the inflation really just kind of push down the economy as it was just completely raging, and then the interest rates now are just kind of pushing all this economy really into more of a recession. So the question mainly now is, how bad is the recession going to be when it happens? So we see the labor market kind of easing a little bit. I'm really going to be watching these jobless claims continue as they continually coming out. We're seeing the labor market just slowly slow down. But remember, I think we're starting to finally get into that point where bad news is actually going to be bad news going forward, especially if inflation comes down. We're still in this disinflation area where inflation is temporarily down, but it could continue to come back. You can see right here on futures, we jumped up pretty good this afternoon. So it's all. I mean, futures is up almost 3/4 of a percentage point. So if that does continue to hold, we'll see if it. We'll see, especially with the data coming out in the morning. But if we do continue to hold, I'm really watching some of these major levels that I'll show in a minute. But yeah, a lot of this data really is just now going to be good news is good news, bad news is bad news, because you're wanting the economy to show better news, so the recession is looking like lesser and lesser of how bad it's going to be. Here's some things I want to continue to watch this week, along with the data that's coming out. We had some stuff kind of brew a little bit this weekend over the Christmas holiday. We had COVID in China, which is good news. We had that zero COVID policy kind of back off a little bit. China will lift all remaining restrictions on the international flights to the country. As of January 8th, China will no longer include COVID-19 among the infectious diseases requiring quarantine for inbound travelers. But again, continue to watch this, because a lot of China's hospitals right now are really being flooded with a lot of COVID patients, and they're having a lot of problems with this right now anyway. So continue to watch this. If they go back to that zero COVID policy, it could be very bad. It could bring down the stock market a little bit, just mainly on what it could do to the supply chain and everything going forward, especially as we're going to continue to go throughout this winter year anyways. North Korea and South Korea had a little bit of problems this weekend. We saw North Korea put a drone over their capital in Seoul. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But South Korea fired warning shots at the drone, and then China and Taiwan have been still kind of going at each other as the U.S. is back in Taiwan, just mainly because we need those semiconductors. And then the last major data is I want to see is, you've seen Tesla just be beat down lately, just mainly because you have Elon Musk going on with Twitter and everything, and Tesla is really wanting to go risk off just because Elon is really, really crucially worried about Twitter right now instead of really about his company Tesla. So you see Tesla halt production at Shanghai ahead of planned date. So this is another bearish news, just mainly on top of all the other possible risk factors. So let's take a look at some technical analysis here. So again, we see futures pop up. If futures continues to rise, I'd watch this major level right here around 3,900 to 3,920. You see kind of a triple top up there. So But as we head into this week, we see the stock RSI was oversold. It is now coming back up to that bottom range. It can get rejected here, so keep that in mind, especially as the MACD hasn't fully crossed over yet. So we could see a rejection and more of a push down. And I think a lot of that's just going to mainly be on this data that's coming out this week. Looking at SPX, same thing. I see some major resistance up here around that 3900 area as well, just because we broke down out of this major resistance and it's going to have a lot of trouble going back up along with it. But as you can see, the MACD is not completely fully crossed over to the downside, and it can continue to push down just like before, right where you see like here. So it could just be going back up a little bit to gain some more speed for the downfall. So continue to watch this. I'm not holding any long-term positions, especially as we end the year with a possible short-term Santa rally. But I do think things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. Just mainly due to the fact that you saw Q3 earnings weren't the best. They weren't as terrible as they weren't as bad as I expected. But at the same time, you still have this problem about where these companies are going. And remember, it's all about the that future forecast. And you can see right here, Apple, just broke down below key support. So if it comes back up, you could see resistance around 135 to 136. Here, that could possibly be a good put position with a stop loss, up here around 130, about 137.50. If it breaks above that key resistance, then you could continue to see some push. But I don't think that we'll get a major Santa rally unless we see some really bullish news. But this week I think we could see a little bit more of a quiet week, just mainly due as the fact that it's the last week of the year. But looking right now, futures is pushing higher. Just continue to watch a lot of the data and a lot of this news as we're going to continue going to the end of the year. If we do get a little bit of a Santa rally, I think it will be short lived. I think we get one more long, hard push down, and then before it's all over with at least. So if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for all my followers, and everybody have a happy new year. I will have a video coming out this next weekend. It may be a shorter version just because of the new year in general as well. But everybody just continue to have a great weekend, and God bless.
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ting, 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 ting.